Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member, for this very important hearing. And in the halls of Congress, we frequently represent some of and talk about some of the most powerful people in America, what we're going to do with the large banks, what we're going to do. And today we're talking about the most vulnerable people in America, small children, basically being exploited, being captured, and being sold as sex slaves. What could be more horrific than that? And we're told by an organization like Backpage.com that they are doing everything. They're trying as hard as they can to prevent this horrible thing from happening to children. I think today we're saying you need to try harder. And if you were truly trying as hard as what you could, if you truly cared, you would be in this room with us talking about how we could, in fact, attack this problem. They're not in this room because they aren't in this fight with the rest of us. They aren't here to protect children. They're here to make money, as Senator McCain talked about. And I want to just kind of tell you what we're seeing in North Dakota, because a lot of people think that this is something that's removed, it's a city issue, it's something that big cities experience. But in North Dakota, this issue has hit us, and it has hit us hard, because Backpage.com allows it to be invisible. Invisible. There's nobody walking the street corners. It's invisible. And so just yesterday, to give you a sense of where we are, just yesterday, 69 new ads for escorts, and I put that in quote, posted on Backpage in North Dakota alone. 69. And I want to tell you a story. Earlier this year, a 14-year-old Las Vegas runaway was rescued from traffickers in Minot. After her mother saw emails in her inbox, her email inbox, basically advertising her, answering an ad that had been posted on Backpage.com. Last summer, right across from Fargo, North Dakota and Moorhead, Minnesota, the local law enforcement officials responded to a posting on Backpage.com and found a 13-year-old runaway from Minneapolis who had been trafficked for sex. Now, are we to assume that these are the only minors who ever appeared in North Dakota on Backpage.com? Well, you would have to be quite naive and foolish to assume that's the facts. And you'd have to be quite naive and foolish to believe that we really have a partner in solving this problem at Backpage.com. We don't have a partner there. We have somebody who is, I believe, not participating in solving this problem, but in fact capitalizing and becoming filthy rich. And I use the word filthy, honestly, filthy rich on Backpage.com. So one of the issues that I want to explore in the time that I have left is basically the issue of metadata, because we've talked a little bit about, scrubbing the ads, rewriting the ads, but it's my understanding that metadata is also being scrubbed off these ads, which then eliminates some opportunity for actually tracing back to the source where these ads are. And this is a question for either one of you to explain how metadata is being treated on Backpage.com as it relates to escort advertising.
Senator, your understanding is correct. When NCMEC receives a Backpage ad that has been reported, there is not metadata in back of that ad. Metadata, like an IP address or other types of electronic data information, is incredibly relevant and important as far as identifying a location, geographic location, and other types of information that may be pertinent to connecting the individual who took that photograph with the actual photograph and the location of that individual. Without that information, it is often very difficult for NCMEC, certainly for law enforcement, to start to connect that child to that photo.
Do you see metadata being removed from an advertisement for a motorboat, for a car or anything else on Backpage? Do they take the metadata off those ads?
We don't see those ad photos in the same way, so that would be a difficult question for me to answer.
And in response to the
Roberts.
Senator's question, I just add, metadata can be especially important in trafficking prosecutions because what a lot of people don't realize.
I guess, I think we all understand how important it is. Would there be any legitimate business purpose for removing metadata from the advertisement? Commercial purpose?
It is storage intensive, so there is an investment that might be required of servers and that.
And storage is so expensive these days, right? It's
getting cheaper.
Yeah, it's very cheap. And so let's not pretend that this is about storage, quite honestly. And so I know I'm out of time, but I want to give a shout out to a great partner who has been, put her reputation and has been a great partner to the National Center for Missing and Exploited People, and that's Senator McCain's wife, Cindy McCain, who has been absolutely a champion and I think has done more to raise the issue of Backpage than almost anyone else in this country. And so she is a great partner to have and a fierce champion for children in this country. And so we're grateful that even though she's not at this dais, she's definitely here with us today as we address this issue. Mr. Chairman, again, want to maybe give another shout out to an organization called Truckers Against Trafficking. They're working to deal with kind of a culture that needs to change within that subset, and they are doing terrific work in terms of educating, and hopefully you're making strides along with the rest of you in addressing the demand problem, because we know, even as reprehensible as what all of this is, there will, as long as there's a demand, we're going to find the next iteration, the next generation, and so we need to be on top of that as well. Senator Ayotte and I think the chairman and ranking member, as we look kind of going forward, we're looking at things that we can do today. We're going to continue to be as tenacious as what we possibly can on this investigation, but I want to talk about maybe a couple ideas that could add to the add to the effort here legislatively. And I think, Ms. Soros, in your testimony, you mentioned the fact that current federal law requires entities defined as electronic service providers report apparent instances of child pornography that they are being made aware of. So that's federal law. But the same requirement doesn't exist for apparent instances of child sex trafficking. Why do you think that is? Do you think it would make a difference if that law were changed to include child sex trafficking? And has this issue ever been raised before Congress, and has there been a broader discussion? Is this an additional tool that we could be using and looking at?
At NCMEC, we think this would be a tremendous additional tool. I think historically, it was not in the initial statutory requirement that you referenced, perhaps for a number of reasons. Perhaps the focus was not so much on online trafficking instances as it was on child pornography at that time, and it has done wonders to address that problem. I also think child trafficking ads or content are somewhat inherently more difficult to identify than a child pornography image where you simply have a photo and you know if it is apparent child pornography or not. A child sex trafficking ad or content will be a mixture often of text and ads, photographs as well. That being said, we've had some anecdotal discussions with staff on the Hill regarding that gap, that small gap in the reporting statute. It's a change and a further discussion that NCMEC would welcome participating in. We believe if there is a requirement to report, again, only a parent or child sex trafficking content that a server may become aware of, they have no obligation to search, of course, for any of this content. If they did start reporting that to NCMEC, it would not only increase our ability to provide that information through to law enforcement and assist families and victims in the process, it also, I think, would go very far to assisting in our prevention measures. We would see more ad content and be able to develop prevention measures that would address the content we are seeing.
And legitimate actors would err on the side of advancing that kind of content, correct?
Yes, correct.
People who really cared about this problem would, in fact, welcome an opportunity to have someone who is a partner with them to stop this from happening, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. I want to, I think, really thank all the advocacy groups and all of you who have been on the front end of this, who have been toiling, and we know that this isn't just a problem for our country, but as we work through these, as a defender of the First Amendment, and as we work through that balance, the work that we do here is work that will have repercussions, not just in our country, but across the world. And so I really want to thank the chairman and the ranking member for making this a priority for the committee, and I want to thank you for your testimony. It's been great to see you all again, and if there is anything more that we can do or that you think of, I hope that you will reach out either to the committee or individual members who have been working on these issues. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.